quick stories I can tell you that sort of put tonight in perspective for me. One was about explaining the Institute, and when our oldest son was in first grade, I was asked to go, as they had every week a parent come and talk about what you did. And I was actually quite nervous, as Karen remembers, because how do I explain this, EWI, right, to first graders? And I really worked hard. I thought I did a really good job. At the end, they said, "Are there questions?" And no questions. And the teacher said, "Well, Mr. Mroz can't leave until there's a question." So a girl shot her hand up. She says, "Do you make more money than a hairdresser?" That was one of the great humbling experiences of my life. And the other one is, as we started getting some unexpected tributes there, I could say that not too long ago, I started getting tons of SMS messages one afternoon. And one morning, I was in New York, and I said, "God, these messages, they were bizarre. They're from people from all over the place." And I thought, God. And there are things like, "Are you still alive? Are you okay?" People are telling funny jokes. And they were all weird. So I finally called one of them, and he said, "Wait, I'm in a conference in Geneva. Let me come out." He came out, and he said, "God, there's like 1,000 people here." I said, "What is all this stuff about?" He said, "Well," he said, "someone just quoted your article in Foreign Affairs, and the minister from Switzerland who chaired leaned over and said, 'John Mroz, is he still alive?'" So this is kind of the two sides.
Alive and well.
Both of those memories came up as I heard the tributes. And one of what's really happiest for me tonight is that our colleagues who are working at the Institute today can hear this, and that our board members who are today on the board can hear this. And also, frankly, that I heard it, because one of my biggest frustrations, frankly, over all the years, was that I couldn't spend the amount of time mentoring that I wanted to spend. And it was really nice to hear all of you. You all somehow picked it up, whether it was on the run, the car to the airport. You were victim like 312, Alan. Did you have JFK or Newark? I don't know which one you had. But that was, those of you that, before cell phones, that was particularly good because I was rather focused, right? Cell phones added another dimension to the thing. But it's just very, very, very appreciative of this. Part of the idea tonight was to have our various colleagues from the Institute today stand up and talk to you about a lot of the exciting things that we're doing, because the Institute has continued to reinvent itself, as I think hopefully you all know. We also have a presentation supposed to be scheduled a few minutes ago with Hank Crumpton, talking about his recent trip to Afghanistan and giving us an off-the-record briefing. And I think we'll defer to that. But what I'd like to suggest is that all of the colleagues from the Institute today, the board and other staff, that we spend this evening and tomorrow, all of our alumni who are here and their spouses and guests are welcome to be guests at the board meeting. And I know many of you plan to come. Some of you I know have to go back to something called work tomorrow, so I know a number of you have to leave to get back to your various places tomorrow. So for that, we particularly look forward to maybe moving around tonight. We're going to be at a fabulous place with incredible food just right on the other side of the courtyard. And what I suggest is, instead of now using this time now to do that once Francis makes a summary, since a number of directors have just arrived, maybe a little bit, Francis, about what just happened the last couple hours here. And then also to introduce Eden Collinsworth, who is responsible as our Vice President and Chief of Staff to really do what we long ago should have done, and that is to really energize the Institute. We did get a grant, you'll be happy to hear. We always wanted a history project, we couldn't get anybody to fund it. Nobody would ever fund it. There's Marty Altasari. Marty, welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome. Plenty of seats up here. And Marty, you're going to get asked a lot about your successor as Nobel Peace Prize winner. We're warning you, there are going to be a lot of requests. But but just to let you know is we did get, there's Ava. Hi, Ava. And what we did is we got a grant for a history project. And we actually have people working on it full-time. And so it was going to be a written project, but listening to, one of the biggest mistakes we made, I make more mistakes than anyone, was that we didn't videotape this session. It was a huge mistake. Because it's not just what you said, it's how you said it and what it reflected. And I can just say that for all of us who've been through this, Christine, and all of us will say, it was quite extraordinary, what we just heard. And so we'll find a way to get this in the video, I think, as part of the history thing. But also, one of the things that a number of alumni have been saying is that they like to sort of capture best practices. And tonight you've talked about a lot of them. And I hope we'll be able to do that, to share it not only with EWI, but maybe on the website, so that a wider audience can also benefit from what you've done. And the final thing is, people say, where do you keep getting the energy? I get it from you. Every person that spoke today, you and all the other, literally hundreds and hundreds of people who have worked at the Institute, have have given me the, and I could never do it. People say, look what John does, it always bothers me, because it's not what I do. It's what we do together. And
John,
so
before you finish, do you make more money than a hairdresser?
That I'll tell you over a glass of wine tonight. Depends on which hairdresser I get. Francis, I turn it back to you. Thank you all, and thanks all for being here.
Just a few words. Everything's been said, but not everybody's said it. But you've asked me to say it again, to a certain extent, for those who have arrived late. We started off with the belief that everybody who worked for the Institute had had a wonderful career, partly as a result of being there. That the alumni and the institutions that had been spun off in the process were an extraordinary resource and a network that we would like to exploit to a far greater degree, and just as Karen said, and as we have said on the board for some time, we really wished to catalyze and activate this, and Vasil and Sasha together have done this. Now, I have to say that those of us who have the privilege of listening to each of those interjections, it was a stunning and extraordinary experience. Now, it wasn't videoed, but you know, a meeting like this could have taken place 50 years ago. That wouldn't have been videoed, and it would have had an impact. And we will find a way of getting that on the record. We're in France. Gaul, as we all learned, was divided into three. Everything's in three pieces here. I was amused and interested to hear your three words that you characterize the Institute with. To me, the three words are excellence, that is to say, a goal of striving for excellence in everything we do. Additionality, to do things that actually other people aren't doing. Make a difference in being the first leader there. And of course, impact. So excellence, additionality, impact, to me are the three words. And I just go back to my early Latin lessons. Gaul is divided into three parts, and every diplomat and civil servant has 3 points to make about everything. We're here at where it actually started. No, I couldn't possibly summarize in any convincing way the variety, but the excellence of what people have achieved has been stunning. So, in a week where, sir, we had news out of Oslo, that there has been a way of dealing with things that has been out of fashion apparently for some years, but which your career and potentially the career of the new laureate underlines. This is exactly what this institute has been doing all the time. Talking, convening, bringing people together, searching for solutions without conflict. And in a way, I feel that in some respects, the activities of the institute were actually honored completely indirectly. And that is a compliment directly to you, John, last week. So, I don't think we should delay things anymore before we ask Ambassador Hank Crumpton to address us. But I do know that our Chief of Staff Eden has got a word or two to add before we ask Hank